This episode is brought to you by the Power Monkey Training app. We've been working on this thing for a number of years. We're incredibly proud of it and are constantly adding it so that you guys are having the best experience possible. There are 4 different plans that are available right now. The first ones are our 365 plans, Core 365 specifically. These are meant as bite-sized 5 to 15-minute plans per day to help you get a better understanding of incorporating an all-encompassing core regimen into your training. Strong core leads to strong movement. If we can start doing this more consistently with our methodology, it'll help you become a better overall athlete. Along with that, we have our skill plans, why people come to us most often. Learn a handstand, learn a pull-up, learn a muscle-up, learn those toes to bar. Let us help you with the technical aspects of what goes on with what most people consider to be the hardest part of this CrossFit space, working on technical gymnastics expertise. We have it in spades. Let us help you with an assessment-based approach on both strength and mobility, create a level that's appropriate for your starting point, and give you the skills and drills that are necessary to jump from level to level. Third is going to be our Monkey Method. Monkey Method is our GPP for gymnastics. These are going to be 3 levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced, working with us so that you can improve your all-encompassing gymnastics approach, mobility, core work, handstands, bar work, ring work on a more regular basis and can be incorporated into your regular WODs as you're doing them throughout the week. And lastly is our volume plans. These are for the athletes out there that are looking to compete. Take that one muscle up to 5 to 10 to 20 unbroken. How do we do it? We have a plan that's appropriate for you if you're a competitor out there looking to build some capacity around skill-specific training. Let us help you become a better athlete, no matter if you're turning over and getting upside down for the first time or if you're looking to get on the podium at the CrossFit Games. We want to be there to help. Check out powermonkeytraining.com for more information. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Mike Service, and on today's episode, we have Jamie Simmonds. Now, Jamie is, of course, an incredible athlete within the CrossFit space, having competed at the games multiple times over the years as both an individual and a team competitor, finishing on the podium back in 2016 with her team, as well as on the podium again as an individual athlete back in 2019. We talk about some of those successes, as well as her impressive start to the year, having done well at both the Dubai Fitness Challenge, as well as winning the team competition at Wodapalooza back in January. Amazing performances leading up to the Open and now quarterfinals. We also talk about her growing up in New Zealand, some of the sports that she played there, how that helped mold her into the athlete that she is today, and now having made the move many years ago to the Middle East, living in Abu Dhabi, and why she finds that location to be the right one for her to be able to achieve her fitness goals, both as a coach and as a competitor. There's some other things in there very interesting about being a woman in sport, especially in CrossFit, some of the injuries that she's had to tackle over the years. Love speaking with Jamie. This is our first time really getting to know her, and we hope you guys enjoy this one. Jamie, how you doing today? Thank you so much for taking the time to be with me and Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I know there's kind of a where in the world is Jamie Simmonds, but where are you today? Where are we catching you from?
Currently, I'm in Abu Dhabi in the
Okay.
UAE, and have been here since November.
Okay. So you've been there for a little
Yeah,
while, but before we
yeah.
talk a little bit about where you are now, I want to talk about where you came from, because New Zealand is like one of these countries that maybe I'm just speaking for myself. I'm trying to maybe speak for Americans here, but it's like a bucket list place, like the kind of place that like I think myself and most Americans look at as like this idyllic, like Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, incredible place that everybody wants to go to on a bucket list. I know I do.
Yeah,
Is it actually like that? And why would you ever leave?
I know, right? 100%. I am biased, but New Zealand is 100% the best place on earth, I think. But yeah, you've got all that sort of like scenic stuff. It's so far away from the rest of the world. Like you're in your own corner. It takes a long time to get there. So anyone who does travel, make sure you go and make sure you have plenty of time to spend there. So 3 or 4 weeks would be perfect. So yeah, it is a really cool place. It's like you almost step back in time, is what I've learned now being out of it. I never thought that it's like when I lived there, but taking Elliot, my husband, back, he's like, I feel like we're, in England 20 years ago. I'm like, really? No. So we're a bit slower, a bit behind the times, but it is one of those places that, you go home, and for me, it's home. But it's it's a very cool country. And yeah, it is one of those questions I ask myself sometimes, why did I leave? But just for the moment and the sport I'm in, CrossFit, there's just more opportunities for me everywhere else in the world.
I gotcha. Now, all right, we'll move on from the question, New Zealand, but one thing that you would recommend someone doing while they were there, scenic wise, what's a must do in New Zealand?
Must do. Well, I'm from the South Island, so I think that's more beautiful.
Right.
I would say Queenstown is always a must do. It's the mountains and the most touristy place. But then as well, you've got like Milford Sounds down south with all the rivers, the mountains near Queenstown. So you've got Glenorchy, and that's actually where a bit of The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is filmed. So anything like that, you've got the glaciers. There's so many options. Just get in a helicopter, which you can do there. Like, it's not too expensive, and see what you can.
I love it. And Mike, just
Yeah, I have
listeners
to.
out there, Mike, before we started, Mike gave a disclaimer to Jamie saying he apologized for Jordan and I to bring up movie references, and I did it in the first 2 minutes. So you're welcome,
Yeah,
listeners. Lord of the Rings brought it
I
up in the
like
first
that
two
one
minutes.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Mike,
one's fair.
Mike,
It's okay.
get on
I'm
course set up in New Zealand. Can you make that
Yeah,
happen and make sure that's on our agenda for sometime in the near
definitely.
future?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be talking with Jamie about that. But I maybe have an even more like lame question. As a New Zealander, are you familiar with living big in a tiny house? It's a YouTube show sensation. It's this New Zealander guy that started tiny houses and then travels all over the world, like interviewing people. And most of them are in New Zealand. So I've never been to New Zealand, but I feel like at least 3 times per week, I watch like a 20-minute YouTube video about like tiny
Oh
houses
wow.
randomly sprinkled all over New Zealand. And like a lot of them are trying to get away from the city where the prices have gone up so much for homes. So they'll like sell their house and then get this insane modern tiny house and put it on top of a mountain. And it's unreal. So a little bit, as Dave said, like, I get why you left, but I hope that you and your husband are planning to return back there at some point.
Yeah. I've not seen that. I definitely am going to look that up after this. It's always like, I love watching things about home. But yeah, we'll definitely end up there one day.
All right, yeah, watch that, and if you are then inspired to have a really cool off the grid tiny house,
Yeah.
I'll feel
Mike
like
will come
I love
visit.
that.
I'm part of that.
Yeah. Come visit.
Now, on the sports side, while you're out there, you did probably one of the more interesting combination of sports growing up. Now, gymnastics, which I definitely want to talk about, and rugby. Is that right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
they seem to be as polar opposite of sport as you can possibly get. Was that done with intention? And did you take some things from those two sports that you're still applying today?
Yeah, I think like obviously as a young girl, gymnastics, ballet, that seems to be the thing that people go to. So sort of starting that from when I was like 4 or 5 through to when I was, I don't know, about 15. But then I got to the stage sort of like, I think I was 7 or 8, and obviously you're at school with all the boys and they're playing either soccer or rugby or whatever. And rugby's so big in New Zealand that I got to that age where I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to play that. I want to be a black fan. Obviously, gymnastics still fun. I'll do that as well. So yeah, the combination was quite hard on my body, I think. Sort of like play rugby Saturday morning, wipe the dirt off your knees, put your leotard on, and go to gymnastics for the afternoon. But it was like, they're so good in different ways. Like gymnastics, individual sport, crosses over to so many other sports. And then rugby, you've got, team sport, you learn, coordination, strength, whatever. But yeah, just the combination of the two sports, I found you sort of developed in two very different ways, especially with like when you're younger, you play with all the boys, and I was very shy, and I think that sort of helped a bit.
And rugby New Zealand is like national sport there. It's like, is it almost like required to be played out there, or is it just something that everyone kind of jumps into because it's such a pastime?
I think it depends. Like, not like a load of girls do. Not a load of my friends did, but all boys that were my friends did. So I jumped in with them. But then when I got to high school, yeah, my school was quite a big rugby school, and it was an all-girls school, so it was about a lot more popular. but yeah, it's just one of those things that everyone sort of comes together for. So even if you're not playing, you'll go and watch the rugby. Rugby players, and I think it's just we're a small nation, and everyone's so proud of our rugby, the All Blacks, the Black Ferns, that everyone sort of gets behind it.
Mm-hmm. That's one of those things too. We got to go, and I would love to watch a match in person one day. You know what I mean? That's another like as a sports fan, that's like a bucket list item. Go to World Cup, go to an Olympic Games, go watch an All Blacks play, and it's definitely
unreal.
a bucket list.
Yeah, it never gets old.
Jamie, where on the field did you play? What position?
So when I was younger, I played halfback or first five. Sometimes we call them different things. So off the back of the scrum, and then as I got a bit older, more centre, wing, and fullback. So I was always in the backs.
So you're fast, is
Never.
what you're saying.
Yeah, and preferred not, that straight up contact.
Do you appreciate the fact that it was included in the Olympic Games recently as another Olympic sport? The sevens,
yeah, 100%, and especially the sevens. That's like, a whole different game. You got to be so fit to play that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you qualify as being fit enough to participate. Now,
still
on the gymnastics side, obviously, my love of the sport wants me to take that conversation that direction. But you did it for a number of years, and obviously, it's had some transfer over to what you're doing today. Did you have any aspirations to potentially go to the Olympics one day? Was that kind of on the radar, or was gymnastics more of a side sport?
It was never a side sport. I competed as hard as I could. I never, I don't know if it's New Zealand or for example, the first time I competed for New Zealand, we went over to Australia, and just the difference in how serious they took it compared to us. It was just you sort of needed, with gymnastics, you needed to sort of have that path for the Commonwealth Games or the Olympics from when you were 5 or 6. So I competed up to maybe level 9 or 10, but never that international elite sort of competitor. So even just, I remember the first time we went to Australia and we finished the competition, all the Kiwi girls are off eating pies while the Australians are off getting the skin folds. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm never going to be that good. But pursued it till I was 14, 15. But yeah, it never, it was 20 to 25 hours training per week. Still went to, we didn't leave school or anything like that. It just wasn't that quite elite level, the Olympics take now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's still pretty serious in terms of the number of hours and years you put into it. And I'm applying it now today to the sport of CrossFit and you being an elite athlete in a new space. I heard you doing an interview talking about how if you were fresh coming back and you had first workout that you wanted to dive into, that it would be something muscle up related, like 30 muscle ups for time and something like that. And that kind of piqued my interest because one, obviously, I'd love to know what your time is, right? What's 30 muscle up for time? But more importantly, why ring muscle ups? Out of all the gymnastics movements, did you ever do rings before CrossFit? It's not an event that females ever really would do. Obviously, we're seeing a lot more of interest in men's rings events because of CrossFit, but was that something that you first got on because of CrossFit, or did you ever do it as a kid doing gymnastics?
Well, obviously you've got the rings at the gym because the boys do it. So we used to play on it. I feel when we were younger at our gym club, we used to play a lot. So it was you'd go on those rings because that wasn't what we did. So you play on the rings. Or I was always a big fan of playgrounds and obstacle courses. So maybe that was more of the crossover. But I think as well, I was your stronger gymnast, not your flexible or sort of more elegant gymnast. So maybe that's why it crossed over more to muscle ups. But I think as well, when I started CrossFit, I could do the bars and I could do the rings and stuff, whereas lifting weights I wasn't so keen on. So maybe I just spent more time on the rings.
Do you know that time, that 30 muscle up for time?
I think 2:48, I want to say. I haven't done it recently, but 2:48 or 2:45, something like that.
Jordan, where are you at on that?
I think the last time I did it was just under 4 minutes. So it's
wow.
I don't think I could do that now. I'm old and broken, but back when I was competing.
Sometimes there's good days, sometimes bad.
Yeah.
I'm a little offended as the lone weightlifting representative.
Yeah, but you do more
That's
muscle ups
me.
than any of us right now.
Not on the
Yeah.
rings though. I don't like the rings so much. But I was just
Like
thinking.
your-
I think I could hang from the rings while Jamie does her muscle ups, and then I would consider that a feat of my own. Yeah.
Love it.
That's a win. Now, back to Abu Dhabi. Why? So we don't see too many athletes of your caliber choosing to live in Middle East in situations like that. And a lot of people go to even from Europe or wherever else, South America, moving to the States because there are a lot of opportunities to, maybe train with a top tier coach or with other athletes that are also in the pipeline to be a games or podium champ. What took you to Abu Dhabi, and why has that become like a home for you over the course of the last few years? Feel like it's the best situation for you to be able to reach your goals, or are there other things kind of at play there?
Yeah, well, originally back in 2014, I moved over for work. So I came over here because I was actually doing home personal training. So I'd go to people's houses and train them. And then I just trained at CrossFit, yes. And then I ended up, they needed a female coach. So I ended up coming over to CrossFit, yes, and coaching there. So that's where I met Elliot. And then as well, we competed. There was, 6 of us. We competed on team at the games. Then I competed my years just through like being here, but I was here originally to work. So coach, PT'd, and just, helped out at the gym. So that went until January 2021. We decided, so we've always coached, worked, and competed or trained, whatever. And we sort of decided after 2020, we're like, you don't want to look back and think I didn't take every opportunity. And we were like, look, let's try to do this full-time athlete thing. So we went to the UK, to Cardiff, because that's where my coach at the time was, and he owned a gym there, to do the whole full-time athlete thing, because all those years before there was a lot of work hours involved. Went there to, I think it must have been like not even a month in, just catted my shoulder. And that was, so that changed a lot of plans. Elliot was still competing, but he had to deal with everything I had. So I actually tried to rehab that for like 3 months and then ended up having to get surgery. So in the end, it was like a year and a half really out. And so like, well, that went well, the whole, full-time athlete thing. And then, and just after so we were actually there for 2 years till November. And then sort of like within the last, I came over for the Dubai competition in November, and I realized like it wasn't like here is like home, and this is just the last 2 years I don't know if I'd been fighting that, sort of thinking I need to be somewhere else to be a full-time athlete. But when I come back to Abu Dhabi, this is like, I love the weather, the people, we've got access to so many different gyms, so many different facilities, you've got the beach, and it just sort of suited myself and Elliot a lot more than most other places. And I don't think we realized how much this place had become home. So basically you're away for that long, you get used to the sun, you stay there.
You said something pretty interesting there, guys. I don't know if you caught it, but you said, 2020 was the year where she decided to take it serious. And that was after she had finished on the podium at the games. You understand that, everyone listening out there?
I never said not serious. I never said not serious.
She had already finished on the podium in 3rd place in 2019. And then, you know what? Maybe I should take this serious. See what could happen.
Jamie, I'm just listening to that. I didn't realize, I guess, prior to your injury, I would say how balanced you were in the sense of like working and doing PTs and training. And I found that in weightlifting to often be a problem for a lot of high level competitors. They would drop so many things out of their life to try to be like full time, because they're like, well, this will take me to the next level. And I mean, I haven't accumulated a list, but just from my subjective observations, so many people get hurt when they make that choice, because I think you're given the time to go harder than you're probably needing to go. And you fill empty times with like, well, I can train more, or I can do another set, or I can do another session. And at least I think we have a handful of like younger athletes that listen to us, and Dave and I get to work with. I find myself advising athletes so many times, like less is more right now. Like if you're still feeling healthy and progressing, or even in a point of like maintaining, like don't rock the boat. So that was I don't know, it's interesting to hear, and I'm sure some other.
It's also it's one of those things as well. It's like you don't want to have all these too many distractions like work and things like that, but I think as well we didn't realize how much we do sort of outside the gym, and like help, like even like just helping your friends out with training and stuff, like because we have a lot of friends here that go to the gym, and you just be in the gym, you finish your session and you'll go help them out for a couple of hours, or you'll go, you know, to the beach or whatever. And I don't think we realized, like once we got to the UK and we were just head down, and we're like, well, what do we do now, you know? And I think as well, just after coaching so many years and having those interactions, you don't realize how much that actually benefits you as a person and an athlete.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, that's refreshing to hear that perspective has kind of come out of the process. And then how awesome for you to be able to go back to Abu Dhabi and feel that home feeling too, because I know that's got to be just kind of heartwarming for you and Elliot probably together.
Yeah, 100%.
Mike, I love that question. I think it's such an important one for athletes of all levels to be able to figure out balance, like you said. And Jamie, I'm curious what it is that allows you to find balance outside of the hours that you put in the gym. As a professional athlete, you know, the number of hours that you would normally train, whether it was Mike as a weightlifter, myself as a gymnast, takes up the majority of the day, right? And you base everything else around those hours in the gym. But what do you do to reset? What do you do to allow yourself to feel like, okay, I need to separate from that? You mentioned going in and helping others at the gym and coaching, but that still takes you into that space. Are there things that you enjoy doing that kind of help reset outside of the gym?
Yeah, well, I love the beach or the sun, anything warm. And you're so lucky, like here in the Middle East, you've got beaches, pools, accessible anywhere. And that, like, it's one of those things as well. You don't realize that you can just go sit on the beach, chill, do nothing, go for a walk, whatever. When it's like cold and rainy or somewhere, you're not going to go sit outside and just, you know, so that's a bit different. And so, yeah, beach always been one for that. And I think as well, just like, I don't know, Abu Dhabi, where we are anyway, isn't that big, the area that all our friends and stuff sort of live in. So you can just literally just pop over to your friend's house, hang out for a bit, go to their pool, whatever. But I think as well, it's just, getting outside makes a difference. But other than that, don't do that much.
That's the life of an athlete. You know, it's part of the deal.
I do some online programming, but then as well, that's again more CrossFit, but it's sort of different. So I don't mind it.
I mean, I think the magic word is that like community and friendship and those components. And even when you were talking early on with rugby, I was just curious your experience from rugby and a team sport. Was there a moment when you got into the CrossFit gym or CrossFit setting and it just like, this feels familiar. Like I liked this process in rugby, and I could imagine I played football all through high school. So that camaraderie feeling of just being in a CrossFit box and everybody is like together and laughing and joking and training. That's magical. Definitely.
And it sort of, it keeps you coming back. I think, you're like, I'll go catch up with them while I'm there. But definitely CrossFit, like it's one of those things you can tell it to people, but they don't actually fully understand till they experience it.
Totally. And I think there's, you're probably a testament to that as well. Like there's nothing wrong with Cardiff. There's, nothing wrong there, but maybe that just wasn't the spot for you guys to be plugged into what you needed. And that's, you don't want to encourage people to jump around to every other gym that there is and every other coach that there is, but there's a situation for everybody. And when you find that one, it's like, hold on to it tight.
Yeah, definitely. And also like people like doing different things outside of the gym, or, it depends like where your family is, like, because that was a thing as well. Like we moved to the UK, which was good for Elliot. He was a bit closer to his mum. His dad was still a wee way away, but like I was just even further from home. You know, like to get back to Australia to compete last year, it was just flight after flight. So now I'm like halfway back there. That's a bit better.
You mentioned something earlier that I want to come back to, your injury, specifically shoulder dislocation. And it sounded like it happened a few times before you actually went on to have your surgery. I had subluxed my shoulder many times over the years, and I kind of know some of that process. Was that a reoccurring injury that you've had over and over? Did it really dislocate like one time? Do you remember kind of what the movement was that you were doing? And then from that point forward, was it something that you knew was going to be something you had to deal with?
Yeah, well, actually back in 2017, just after the end of the year, I subluxed it and had to get surgery then as well, but that was just keyhole. Okay. So I think I had surgery in November, and then I competed the next year in the Open in February. So that was the same shoulder. And then, yeah, so when we were in Cardiff, I was actually doing a dumbbell pullover with like, I think it was 7 kilos. 7 kilos, a dumbbell pullover. And it just sort of like kept going, came out, and it was out for about, I don't know, 2 hours as I was yelling at everyone in A&E, just put my arm back in. But we got there in the end. So that like, but then I went to my, like, because I'd actually got the first surgery in Cardiff. So conveniently, I was in the right place. So I went to my surgeon again, and he said, well, the back, which we fixed last, whatever it was, 4 years ago, is actually held up, like it's in perfect form. And that's probably why it came out front, because the back was, so secure, and the front wasn't. So it came out the front. And then he was like, you could rehab it, see how it goes. If you with CrossFit, it's like you put your arm everywhere. So obviously that socket was pretty loose if it came out with a dumbbell pullover. But I rehabbed it for 3 months, and then like 3 months later I was building snatches up again and got to, I think, maybe like 155 pounds, and just a power snatch as well, and it just dropped out again. Another 2 hours with it out, yelling at people at A&E. And then after that I was like, look, if I want to keep doing CrossFit, I don't ever want to go through that again, because it's horrible. I just want to get surgery. So then I had to it was a lot bigger procedure. They had to open and, restructure everything. But now feels a lot more secure. So we got there.
All right. All right. So who ended up putting the shoulder back in, the shoulder back in? Was it like Rocky style, just like someone at the gym, just like popping it back in, or did you actually have to go to the hospital and have it put in?
Had to go to the hospital. It was like under my armpit.
Oh my goodness.
They actually have to what's it called, get an X-ray of it first to see how it's out, get it back in, and then I had one person holding my body and one other person yanking my arm. We got there with a bit of gas.
Oh my goodness. That just the visual of that, not fun.
Bringing back some great memories over here, Jamie. I had a similar situation with my elbow, and
I think that's worse. I think elbows worse.
Well, when you said the X-ray, I mean, I was like 14 when it happened the first time, and I wish I would have known that they should X-ray first, because I was playing football and it came out, and then the like we had to wait for the medics to come and then ride all the way to the hospital, and then like 2 hours or whatever, and then the doctors tried to put it in before they X-rayed. So that with me screaming and yelling at them to not do it because it hurt so bad, and they thought I was just being too tense, but it ended up being like a fracture and things. So
wow.
Yeah, but I just, when you're saying that, I'm like, yep, that all sounds so familiar. And I remember the only thing I thought was just do anything to make sure that doesn't happen again. Like, I don't want to feel that ever again.
Yeah, I do not want to be in that situation, because you just don't know what to do, and you don't even know. You get in the car and you're like, I literally can't move.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're just sort of dreading as well, how is this going to get back in?
I feel like the fact that you've done that snatching, though, you're in such a good group of company. Like, weightlifters don't generally get hurt often, but like the fun war stories are usually like, this elbow came out at this point, or this shoulder came out at this point. We had a youth athlete that used to compete with us, and he had to quit weightlifting because he had this like every 5 snatches, his shoulder would pop out. He just realized like,
Wow.
maybe it's not for me, and had to
Not
move
worth
on.
it.
So, yeah.
Really not worth it. Yeah.
So you said the
Wow.
shoulders doing well now, no issues, feeling
Yeah.
secure in the front and back, and you're good to go.
Yeah. It's very tight, but we're working on it.
Yeah, yeah. So we're in a kind of an interesting week here. Actually, fortunately, this episode will be coming out post open, but for those listeners out there, this is the week prior to the start of the CrossFit Open. And historically, the Open has been something that you've kicked some ass at. And curious how you approach the Open. We asked various athletes this over the years and get an idea of, some of them, Open doesn't mean too much. I'm looking to more peak when it comes to semis and obviously the games. And I really just kind of like go through the 3 or 5 weeks or whatever it turns out to be. What's your general approach to the Open? Is it to win, or is it more just kind of get your body prepped for the season?
Yeah, I think like I've never gone into the Open thinking, I've got to go for it. I want to win, whatever. One year that happened, but that's fine. But I think I never do it on the first day, because I feel like quite often sometimes you miss a standard or something, and then if you do that wrong, you've got to do it again, even if you didn't want to. So I don't normally do it on the first day. I always wait to the second day, when you've actually like, oh yeah, now I understand what the workout is. And I don't really go into it with like too much pressure on myself. Like I don't need to qualify for anything straight out of that. But then I think it's also a really good time to test yourself. They're pretty, like, more often than not, they're pretty straightforward workouts, pretty brutal. And just sort of like test how you warm up, test how you lean into it when it gets uncomfortable. And yeah, just see where everything's at. So I like it as well that like we do the workouts, and then now being back at Yes and stuff, that like everyone around you's doing the workouts too. Yeah, there's a really good group of people here at the moment. I think it's gonna be really fun.
The programming of the games last year with Boz kind of taking over, and this being the first real full season that Boz is going to be programming, are you anticipating anything interesting being thrown into the mix, or do you kind of just go in blind, not anticipating whatever comes at me, I'm going to be prepared for?
I think there will be something a bit different, which is exciting. Like I really like it when you find out last minute and you've sort of got to like adapt on the fly. But yeah, obviously you see like these glimpses of things in main site or at other competitions and things. You're like, oh, okay, I better practice that. And it's always funny as well, because you try it the first time, like, oh my gosh, like if I had to try to do this in competition now, I'd be buggered. But if you, after like a few weeks practicing it, it's crazy how much better you can get at something. So I think, yeah, if you just I try to keep my eyes peeled on like main site, especially when you see some things in there, and just, give things a try. But as well, if you spend a bit of time in the gym, just, playing as such, I think you actually pick up a lot more skills than you realize.
Yeah. Mike, what are you looking forward to in the Open? Anything interesting on the equipment list?
I'm looking forward to cheering for all the people that will suffer. And doing my what I call my passive fitness routine, where I also partake at a very casual pace to be able to smile and talk and encourage throughout each workout.
I like that.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I'm actually curious to see. I guess it's like maybe cherry picking. I think there'll be something again with wall walks that just has an interesting combo. I feel like that because I think Boz will be varied but systematic, and I could imagine like wall walks will lead to something in the next round that develops from that develops from that. So that's like my kind of easy pick. And of course, I'm hopeful that maybe there's some type of heavy lift to separate some people, whether it's like a part B of one of the workouts. But I want to go something wall walky.
All right, Mike, says. Loving the handstand call out. That's what I'm talking about. We're teaching you well. It's only taken over a decade for you to appreciate it. I'm hopeful to do the Open. I had a little injury, and hopefully I'll be healed up before it. But this will be 2010 was maybe the first one, so this is maybe like 13 years of doing this.
Wow.
I don't know if it's
That's
an
awesome.
official. Yeah. So I always get a kick out of being dead on the ground and saying I'm never doing. I'm one and done for sure on these things and never doing them again.
What's your favorite open workout that
You
you've
mean like
done?
favorite, like I enjoyed doing it, or
Yeah.
I despised every piece of what we just had to do?
That you actually enjoyed?
Oh, so 7 minutes of burpees, I still do very regularly. I
Oh,
still
I like
I still
that.
do 7 minutes of burpees. Like if there's like a moment in time where I'm like, shit, I haven't worked out today, I need to do something. 7 minute burpees is my go-to. So I still do that one very regularly. So
And what's your best score?
148.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So burpees are kind of in a gymnast's wheelhouse. Like
Yeah.
don't ever put a barbell in my hand or any external weight. But
I like it.
if it's body weight related, I can handle it.
I
Yeah.
feel like, Jamie, I feel like Dave's hidden superpower that a lot of people don't realize too is like you did gymnastics and rugby growing up. Dave was doing gymnastics and wrestling for quite some time. So like wrestlers are also known to have some engines. I think Dave just kept that
Yeah.
with him as he progressed on his gymnastics trend, because I can also attest to his love for burpees. I think every workout I've ever done with him, anywhere we've traveled over the world, involves like way too many burpees for me.
Yeah.
So
Chuck them in. Because you can do them anywhere.
That's
Yeah,
true.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Just
they're
yeah.
a great exercise. I mean, come on, how can you
Yeah.
not love burpee?
Exactly.
Jamie,
Yeah.
I had a question for you from especially an elite athlete perspective. How do you feel comparing like a 5-week open to a 3-week open? Is that like a pro con neutral for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty neutral. Like 5 week, by the end of it, you're like, oh, that went really fast, but it does drag it out a lot.
Mhm.
I think the 3 weeks is a bit more exciting, and I actually think it's better for members. Definitely, what I found here, because people travel quite a lot from here. But like over the 5 weeks, half the gym's gone on holiday for one of those weeks. So I think the 3 week is a lot more user friendly as such, and I think it's better for everyone.
Yeah, for me as someone who also coaches a lot of people and works within gym communities, I think 3 weeks is great. Like you don't have to change everybody's
people
life
are
for
over
5
it by
weeks.
then.
Yeah. I remember thinking like when it went from 5 to 3 the first time, it was like you pay your $20, you're like, oh man, I only get 3 workouts out of them for my $20. And then after I was like, yeah, 3's plenty. 3 is absolutely plenty. I have no interest in going back to the 5. Competition earlier this year. I just found this interesting because I was watching a TV show recently, Special Forces. Have either of you come across this nonsense of a show?
No,
It's a reality show. I'm not a big reality TV guy, but someone told me to watch it because Nasty Liukin, Olympic champion gymnast, was on the show, and I love supporting gymnasts and all of their endeavors. So we watched these celebrities on this show that basically takes them into the desert and have to train like a special forces a cadet for a while and go through some pretty, some are pretty tame, more about like fear of heights and things like that. And some are a little bit more aggressive, fighting, tear gas in your face, those kind of things. And they kind of slowly weed people out. You don't really get voted off the show. You just take yourself off when you don't think you can handle it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm getting to a question here, trust me. One of the episodes, they had to climb this tower and then rappel off, but they had to kind of carry their pack. It was like a 20 or 30 pound pack, and it was about 300 feet, 300 feet. So maybe a pretty manageable distance up this. It was an airport tower. When I watched that and we were prepping for this, we went back and watched you compete earlier in the year in Dubai after having won the climb up to Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Is it 160 floors?
Yeah.
So 100, and I was watching these. A lot of them were former professional athletes. Some of them are not. You have like Anthony Scaramucci in there, and you have some other people that are more personalities than they are professional athletes. But even the professional athletes were really struggling to get up this 300-foot tower. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, if you put a CrossFit athlete, if you put Jamie in this, it would be laughable. Like, I don't think people really appreciate the level of capacity that CrossFit athletes have when it comes to these types of tasks. The question is around that feat of going up 160 floors with your pack on. Where was the breaking point for you where you were just like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue here, and what allowed you mentally to be able to win the event?
Yeah. So it was a very cool event. Start with that. Like how often, obviously you can't just go and do it. You have to, if you go in there, you go up the elevator. So it was a very cool event. It is one of those events that is so bland, so mundane. Like it's literally you, your breath, and your thoughts, and that's it. Because the tough thing was, so like I didn't know I'd won till a bit after, because it was like a time trial, or like, you set off 2 minutes apart, because obviously it's a hallway, you can't all run together. So you don't actually really know how you're doing, and you're very unlikely to catch, unless like 2 minutes is quite a big difference when you're just running upstairs. So you do not see anyone the whole time, and it's a lot, like 30 something minutes. And it's just sort of you and your thoughts. But the thing is with CrossFitters, they can, like, you do some bland workouts often, like 7 minutes of burpees. That's pretty straightforward. It's the same thing. It's just like whether it was all mental, and I imagine the same on that program. It's just like the moment you get distracted, or the moment you think about something else, or worry about how tired you are or out of breath you are, that's when you're going to slow down. So I think CrossFitters are very good at just getting into that zone, not worrying about how you're feeling, but just keep going. I think it was one of those ones that you just had to be prepared for that and just sort of suck it up and go. And it was almost like, that moment you think, if I slow down a bit or stop, it's going to help. Doesn't. Like, you just feel so much worse. So it was just like, keep going. And then you get to the top. It's one of those ones where, like, I think it was at about the first 100 floors. Okay. When I got to about 120, I was like, because I think as well, they got longer. So like all the staircases aren't the same. And you go like across different, like you go up a staircase, across a level, up some more staircases. But it got to like 120, 130. And I swear the staircases like doubled. So you're just like you don't even want to count the floors, because they just get longer and longer. And it was just another step. But when you got to the top, you actually recovered semi-quickly compared to some workouts.
Unbelievable. I took the elevator up, and I almost fell asleep because it took like 5 minutes to just take the elevator up. It's the kind of thing that I still have no idea how someone's physically capable of doing that. But what was the finishing time?
32, like 32:10, I think.
That's insane.
And it was like, I think I like pretty much I remember the first bit, you like take off really fast. I looked at my watch, it was like 1 minute in. I'm like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure I'm at heart rate 200, just 30 to 31 more minutes to go.
Do you know what the top male time was by chance?
It was 30:45, I think.
Wow.
Right there.
I think I was like third. I think I was like third or fourth out of everyone.
Incredible.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Kudos to
Jamie,
you.
What was the year at the games when it was with the wheelbarrows and you had to move everything from like one side of the Coliseum to the other?
Maybe
yes, I think that was the year we were team, so we didn't do it. But I saw it, and like they had to put it over the side, didn't they? That's looked tough.
Those types of workouts that I mean, those ones are for me actually fun to watch, because it's like this is literally just work. It's like, okay, you just have to work and get it done, and it actually it represents a lot of what some people kind of have to do in their life anyways, where it's like, all right, clock in and like get it done. So
but I want them working on my thumb.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like Spieler's grunt work, just put your head down and keep moving. Just keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's something that came up that Jordan and I were talking a lot about. It's we've actually brought up on a few different podcasts recently this how awesome CrossFit is when it comes to gender equality, and how it's created a lot of opportunity for men and women to compete on an equal playing field, where, you know, a lot of other sports are fighting for that. You look at money disparity, and you look at just opportunity disparity, how Title IX has kind of changed that. But CrossFit has been kind of it's kind of a unicorn when it comes to this space. And I'm curious from your perspective, if it's something that drew you to the sport in terms of saying, hey, both of us are always playing on the men and women are playing on the same playing field no matter what, or if it was something that you just appreciated once you actually got into the sport.
Yeah, I don't think I knew much about it beforehand. But once I got involved in CrossFit, and, like, you know, you look up on YouTube, you watch videos and stuff, you actually found more stuff of women, of, like, you know, the girls back in the day, like Annie, Camille, all that. And I think, yeah, being in it for so many years, you sort of almost take it for granted. You're like, you know, we're the same as we get, you know, the same attention as the guys. Sometimes we switch events, like sometimes the girls are at the end because it's more exciting. And you sort of take it for granted. But yeah, now, like, over the last few years and seeing stuff in other sports, CrossFit is, yeah, very unique like that, and you definitely appreciate it. And I think, yeah, it's one of the only sports. And quite often you get people sort of, you know, like, what's it like being a woman in CrossFit? And, you know, it's just the same as a male, pretty much. Like, you get all the opportunities, and yeah, it's good.
And that is kind of an interesting question there. It is the same in terms of the competitive side, but there is this nasty underbelly of trolls online when it comes to body image stuff, and these assholes that, you know, from their couches are commenting on, you know, female bodies and, like, man muscles, something that we've heard being thrown around recently. Is this something that you've had to deal with in your own journey at all, with people kind of commenting on you personally, or just something that you've seen from afar?
I've not had it too bad. I think, like, it's something you get in every sport, really, for females. I think, like, you know, you're a tall basketballer, someone's gonna call you out somewhere. You're the strong swimmer, whatever.
Short gymnast.
I think, yeah, there's that as well. One of those wee tiny people. Yeah.
Hey, that's why I want to go to New Zealand so bad. It's where the hobbits run free.
Yeah.
So I feel like
Just normal. This is normal.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's one of those things in all sports, isn't it? That people sort of, like, you're not, you know, your usual typical person. So you do get it sometimes, but I think as well, you're appreciated more than some of the trolls. And I think as well, if you're sort of surrounding yourself with people that are sort of thrown off by that, then you're surrounding yourself with the wrong people. But yeah, I personally haven't had too much of that, but I have seen it come across, and I think most females or most girls will just sort of, you know, brush it off them. And if you're confident with, you know, why you're doing it, and, you know, what your body does, I think most people can brush it off. But yeah, as well, it's still out there, and the more you can sort of, you know, head down and stay in your own path, then that's going to help.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the comment for the athletes out there that are doing it, or the females that are new to the sport and worried about, you know, that being a potential comment they're going to get from guys on the street. Just head down. What I've always appreciated about what continues to draw me to CrossFit is the community, and the fact that Mike and Jordan and all the others that come to Power Monkey Camp, we become like a family. And to me, every gym that you go to is a family. You know, you at Yas, no matter where you are, you've created a community around it, and you can lean onto those people. I have a feeling that most of the people making those comments are probably not in the CrossFit community. They just see the images and just see the videos and, like, what's going on there? I need to comment because, you know,
and as well,
I can't get off my couch.
Different. So people look so different on the internet or on videos and whatever than they do in person too. So, you know, people always putting their 2 cents worth in.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike, did you ever have to deal with any of that in weightlifting? Massive thighs.
Yeah, I mean, no, my coach was usually the one who was giving me the most, like, body conscious comments. My coach always told me that I was built like a pear, like the fruit of pear, and I thought that was never the most complimentary fruit.
But was it said with love and
it was usually surrounded with lots of other comments that I would personally interpret as loving, from knowing him. But no, I was just, you guys were talking about that, and I was thinking about it. I think, regardless of gender or comments or what anybody's saying, it's like, yeah, everybody's always going to talk about something. Like, people are going to find something to say, and as difficult as it can be, it's like, you probably do a really good job of it just with how you're answering to Jamie. It's like, to not entertain those comments, but at the same time be willing to advocate for the positive that maybe they're trying to bring down. So it's like, I don't know. It's always a slippery slope within society to manage those things. But I think expecting that no matter what you're doing, no matter what space you're in, how you speak, talk, look, like somebody will say something negative. So kind of anticipate it and just, in a sense, feel bad for that person, but then head down, go about your way.
100%.
I love it, Mike. Mike, you always have such good perspective on these things. Whenever I have an issue with like just life in general, I go to Mike, and Mike gives me such wisdom. It's
like a philosopher.
You really
well,
are.
It's easy to sit on my little mountain and say things. So, but yeah, try to keep positive. I guess you guys would probably appreciate that, just since we're on a positive perspective wave. There was a quote I heard recently from something I was listening to, and it was, let's say, the leader of a group, and his mentor was asking, like, how would you define yourself as being successful? And he was struggling to figure that out. And then the mentor said, I mean, I think you're already doing it, but I would say that when you can promote and then expand a community of like love and empathy, like that's essentially your goal. So I think CrossFit can come off hard from the outside when people look at it. But when you go inside a gym, more often than not, the overwhelming feeling is one of like being quite loved and quite understood or felt. And that's something that's actually drawn me into it, coming from more of an individualistic side sport like weightlifting, where we were mostly just judging each other all the time. And then when you get into a CrossFit gym, it's like the moment you judge one person, you realize you just judged like everybody in the room, and they're all going to check you pretty quick and help to expand that. So that's something that, like Dave just said, we love within our group at Power Monkey. Hopefully one day you get to come and experience that with us at camp. Is
That's just awesome.
When you come to camp, Jamie, I guarantee you, within 1 or 2 days, you'll be like, the world is amazing. Like, the world is full of amazing people. Everybody is awesome. We just need more of these situations where people can actually express that from themselves.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, Mike, I love that too. And I think what it comes down to too, what creates that bond between CrossFitter is going through something challenging together. The fact that you go through something that you didn't want to do on your own, you had someone pushing you and someone guiding you, and when you're done with it, you're just grateful for the person next to you to be able to feel like you had someone in your corner. And that's another reason why I've talked about it with Chad too, but coming from an individual sport, Jamie, you played rugby, so you had more of an experience with a team sport. But I always looked at gymnastics from a team perspective, and I always preferred competing for a team, whether that was collegiately or part of Team USA. I always loved being able to say that my contribution went to something bigger and not just my own, a satisfaction of being on the podium or getting a medal for myself. It was all about, what did my contribution do for the betterment of the team? And, when you don't play too many team sports, I did play a lot of team sports, but even in the individual sports, even as a CrossFit athlete, I've always looked for, and I think a lot of us do, how can my score, my time contribute to something bigger? And I think you get that even in an open setting or in a Power Monkey camp, or whatever, even just a regular gym setting. So I think, maybe I'm speaking too much as a blanket, but I think a lot of CrossFitters find that same thing, like we're doing this together and collectively we're better because of it.
Yeah. And even like, again, especially now with all these younger kids coming up and through, like inspiring someone to start any sport, give it a go. And yeah, I think just, sort of inspiring people to start is something that I've always strived for. And even just like, your friends and family, like you want to influence. Like my parents have helped me so much growing up with sport, every sport that I wanted to do. You sort of want to give back to that as well.
Absolutely. Now, I don't want to jump topics too much here. We're getting close to the end, and I just wanted to talk. We're talking about team and things like that, and you just came off an impressive showing at Wodapalooza with the team, and it's a team of international superstars all coming together. And Wodapalooza seems to do that, right? Wodapalooza is one of the bigger, if not biggest, competitions out there, but it seems like, as a spectator, as someone who's been to many over the years, that it's more about having fun than it is even about winning. And I'm curious from your perspective, being able to compete with Laura and Gabby and be able to finish the way that you guys did. Was it more about that, like just, hey, these are friends that I see from afar and I want to be able to participate in a competition with them, rather than saying we're here to win this thing?
Yeah, like 100%. So I actually competed with Christoph, Laura's brother and Gabby's boyfriend, in Madrid earlier in the year, just for fun as well. And then so I found out. So then I talked to Laura and Gabby and said, like, where we get on well, I'll come out early so we can train together, get to know each other better. I get on very well with both of them, and I think that is key, to find like a team that you click with, not even just like in a CrossFit way where strengths and weaknesses sort of contrast, but as well someone that you want to, like, when you are suffering, suffer with them. So yeah, we went out early, trained with them, hung out with them for a good 10 days, and then when you get on really well with your teammates and then you win as well, it's like icing on the cake.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it was nice prep for the season, and at least getting the body tuned up for the Open. We're coming towards the end of the podcast here, but before we get you out of here, are you cool answering a couple of quick questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right. First one, I'm hoping for a win here, Mike. But what sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics.
It's easy.
The easy one. Very easy.
Nostalgic childhood memories over shoulder injury. So yeah, we gotta...
Yeah, exactly.
We love barbell work too, Mike. Don't feel discouraged there. Question number 2: anyone that you think would be great for us to interview? Someone maybe you've come across recently that would be good for us to have on the podcast?
I would say maybe Laura or Gabby.
That's a good idea. Have we had Laura on before? Laura's been out to camp with us in the past, and I'm not sure if we've had her on the podcast, but if not, we definitely got to line one or both of them up. That would be awesome.
Yeah. They're cool girls.
Excellent.
I think we reached out to Gabby and she didn't respond yet. So maybe Jamie, you can help with that.
Yeah, I'll push her along.
Yeah, give it a little boost.
Tell her we're really fun guys. We're really nice. Ask great questions. Just be honest.
Love Poland.
Just be honest.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Where's Gabby from?
Poland.
So she's my neighbor. I'm in Germany right now. So
okay.
Maybe that can encourage. I can go there. We can have in person.
That's one of our favorite places to travel. We've done courses out there a bunch. We love going out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But all right, couple last ones here. Books. If you are a book reader, is there a book that you've come across recently that you'd recommend? And if not, maybe a TV show?
Oh, TV show. I recently watched The Volcano. Have you seen that?
I have not. What is it?
About White Island, which is a volcano in New Zealand, erupted when there were tourists on there. Like, it is an insane story, and obviously there was a lot of survivors. A few died, but it's the story of how people helped each other out and got each other out was insane. But as well, the poor people who suffered it. But I just found it was it's a documentary. Oh, wow. I just found it was very, put a few things into perspective.
All right.
Yep.
Excellent. Jordan, you got to put that one down. I haven't heard of that one. Is it on what streaming service is it on?
Netflix.
All right, cool. All right. We'll
We
have to
might
add
have
that to the
different
equation.
here for you though, but it's called
Okay.
the volcano.
All right. Jamie, thank you. Thanks so much for the time today. Really appreciate it. Can you maybe let our listeners know where to find you and if you have anything coming up that you want them to know about?
Not a hell of a lot. Got the CrossFit Open coming up, and that's probably about it. Yeah, I'm just J Greenwood on Instagram. The training I follow is QHP training, which me, Elliot, and Anthony run. So if you want to check that out, get involved.
Fantastic. Thank you
Dave,
again
I had
for the
one more
time. We
question.
appreciate it.
I had one more question. I gotta butt in.
What's your question,
Sorry.
Mike?
Just because I thought of it when we started and then it went away, and it's very random. But what generation New Zealander are you? Like, how many generations do you know? Like
What
your
does that mean?
parents, your parents, your grandparents, like.
Well, I don't even know how that works. I know my mum comes from a Scottish heritage and my dad Irish, but that
But
would probably be.
Were they both born in New Zealand?
Oh, yeah. Okay, no, that would be like maybe 4 or 5 ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious because yeah, that's I don't know. It's interesting
No,
for me. So.
I can't get an English passport, so I can't get a British passport, so it must be very far.
Got it.
Well, Jamie, apologize for that last question, but thank you again for the time today.
No, thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Good luck with the Open. Have fun with it. We're going to be cheering along and seeing how it all turns out. I'm sure you'll be kicking ass as you normally do. As Mike mentioned, you do have an open invite to come to our Power Monkey camp if you can ever make it. If you ever do come to the States for anything outside of a competition, Wodapalooza games type situation, we'd love to have you. And Elliot, we think you both really find it to be an awesome week.
Put on our bucket list.
Absolutely. Well, we're in our 10-year anniversary this year, so we have some special things coming up. So yeah, maybe we can get you out at some point.
Cool.
For all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for listening, and please be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. You can check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Mike Service. And on behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your hosts. I'm Dave Durante with my co-host Mike Service. And until next time, thank you all for listening.